Bosses, it's your girl Kayla Simmons, and today I'm going to be sharing the top 10 pieces of legal and financial advice that I wish I had before launching TMP. All right, so let's just jump right in. The first piece of advice that I wish I knew in terms of the legal aspect is that there is a difference between a business license and a seller's permit. Now, this may seem dumb to a lot of people. It may seem like common knowledge, common sense, but there is a lot of people who don't know the difference, and I certainly didn't. You don't necessarily have to file for a business license depending on your industry and what it is that you do. For some things, like let's say certain apparel and accessories, maybe you may not need a license for it. You may just need a seller's permit. Now, a seller's permit, in most cases, if not all cases, they are free, I believe. But of course, you do have to pay taxes and stuff like that. I don't have a seller's permit. I got a business license, in LLC specifically. That's what I filed for. And I did it with Zen Business. I did it online on my own. Now, for most new business owners, they either can file for, it's recommended to file for an LLC or a corporation. Most of us do LLCs, or some people get seller's permits. Now, if you want to know more about seller's permit, I will link a video down below in the description box. There is a YouTuber that I watch. Her name is Natalie Nicole. She has a seller's permit, and so she can talk a little bit more about that. I'm not as well versed on the matter as she is, so I'll share that for you guys that are looking into attaining a seller's permit. The next piece of advice that I wish I knew was that there is a difference between the little TM marks and the R mark with the circle. I'll put them up here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I'm sure most of you guys kind of know though, and this is regarding trademarks. So the difference is that the TM mark, this is what you can use when you have already filed for your trademark, but you're just waiting for it to be processed and finalized so it can be registered. So we know that, well, if you don't know, I'll tell you, this process usually takes around a year or so to do in most cases. So obviously that's a long time, and you want to let people know that your brand is protected in some way, shape, or form. So this is how you can do that. So you can put that TM mark in your bio or wherever you want to, basically next to your brand, to let it know like, hey, we have taken the precautions to file. However, we're still waiting for it to become finalized so it can be registered. Obviously, the R means that it's registered. So once it's finalized, once they process your application and they accept it and you are a registered trademark, then you can switch out that TM for the R with the circle, and that is the difference. This leads me to my third piece of advice that I wish I knew, which is that you should file before you launch in terms of trademarking. Now, I made the mistake of waiting until after I launched. I waited almost a year post-launch to file for my trademark, which is a mistake on my end. There's no excuse. I dropped the ball on this one. So I recommend I recommend doing it before you launch, filing for your trademark. You don't necessarily have to attain a business license or permit, especially if you're not selling anything, because, you know, I started as a blog. You guys know that. So I didn't really need a seller's permit or a license for anything. So I don't necessarily recommend always doing that because you may not need to. However, you do need to protect your brand name and file for a trademark, especially if you do want to branch out into selling things in the future. Even if you don't, you want to protect your brand name, because as much as we like to believe that people have integrity, a lot don't, and they profit off of your hard work that you've built. And honestly, sometimes it may not even be intentional, but as much as we like to think that we are all just so creative and have all these original thoughts, it's very rare that there is something or an idea that one person has that another hasn't thought of. So it could be the case where someone, they may not even know much of your brand, but they have a similar thought that you do, and they just take the initiative to go and file. As I've said before, not on here, but just, you know, talking with my friends and other entrepreneurs, you guys can't get mad if someone else, if you put something out into the world and someone uses that same name and they take initiative with it. That's why you have to be careful of sharing your ideas too prematurely, because until you take the precautions to legally protect the vision that you were given, it is just an idea. I want you to let that sink in, because it's not yours until you legally protect it. It's just an idea. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead and protect it before you launch. Do not be like me. Do not make the same mistakes, because even though I haven't had any trouble so far, right now I'm still waiting for it to be processed. But even though I haven't had any trouble so far, that doesn't mean that it can't happen to you. So just take the precaution and go ahead and do it. This leads me to my next tip, and that is, or not tip rather, but just a piece of advice. Be prepared for people to go ahead and send you all of these messages after you file your trademark. Be prepared to get emails from lawyers, third-party companies. Even they won't just send you emails either. They'll send stuff in the mail, and it can be really scary, because the way that they'll phrase it or word it, they'll have you thinking you owe all this money or XYZ. Those firms and attorneys and businesses, they are not associated with the main USPTO sites. Now, I know that there's other websites you can file for your trademark on. I use USPTO. I probably should have mentioned this in the last point, but I use USPTO.gov, and I will link a video for that in the description box. Sorry, I'm backtracking a little bit, but I will link a video for that in the description box, so you guys can do it yourselves if you cannot afford a lawyer. Just honestly be prepared, though. If you don't have a lawyer, you're going to have to do a lot of research. Obviously, it's easier to hire someone to do that, but not all of us have the funds. So if you can't hire a lawyer, I will link a video down below. I believe the person giving the tutorial is an actual trademark lawyer, so he gives you a step-by-step tutorial, and this is what helps me. Also, shout out to Slay Girl Slay and Ashley Legs, who is the founder and owner of Slay Girl Slay. She put me on to this guy, and she gave a piece of advice, so shout out to her as well, because being a part of her girl gang, I'm subscribed to her membership, and I was able to get access to this because of that. So shout out to her for putting me on. I will say that USPTO does a great job of making their tutorials fun, and well, I won't say fun, that's doing a little much, but they make it somewhat entertaining. You know, it's not just monotone and boring, and none of the videos are more than 10 minutes long. So when you're doing it on that site, I recommend watching every single one, because it will save you a lot of time. Let me just say, if you make a mistake, either they will reject your application altogether, or you'll have to pay money to fix the mistake you made, even more money than you already did going into it. So that's why I recommend watching all the videos. Watch the tutorial that I'm going to link in the description box, and just make sure that you do your research. Honestly, it didn't even take me that long. It took maybe like an hour and a half max to go through the process. So it really doesn't take that long at all. So be thorough, because you want to do more work on the front end now, so you don't have to do more work on the back end later on. Cool? Right. Okay, so getting back to this current tip, talking about the people that will be messaging you. Be prepared for that, because there will be people who hit your line and scare you and send messages like, I don't know, I think I got, a few weeks ago, I got something in the mail where at the top it had like over $1,000 worth of money, and the way they worded it, it kind of looked like I owed some money or something like that. And I believe they're very sneaky now. Obviously, they go to school for these sort of things, so they know how to word things in a way that kind of catches your attention and scares you a little bit. But USPTO will send you this after you finish your application. So shout out to them for also doing this and letting you know. And also shout out to, once again, Ashley Legs for letting us know and putting us on, who are members of her girl gang. She lets us know, and USPTO lets you know, that they have to put at the bottom of any message that they send, whether it's email or something in the mail, like physically, they have to put that they are not associated with USPTO. USPTO lets you know that if it's from us, you are going to see USPTO.gov somewhere in the message. So be conscientious of that. if you don't see no USPTO on that, or go down to the bottom of that email or look down at the bottom of that message or that piece of paper, and that will let you know if it's legit or not. So that's just a piece of advice, because you will get a lot of those messages as soon as you file, because they want your money, honey. Okay. The next piece of advice that I wish I knew before launching was that in terms of the applications for trademarks, it is $225 per classification. Now, let me just say this. There is two different types of applications that you can fill out. There's a $225 version, which I believe is the T's Plus, and then there's T's Standard. I believe I did the T Plus. Whichever one was $225, that's the one that I did. Now, the difference between the two is the $275 one. They do more work on their end, so you don't have to put in as much information and do as much manually. And then obviously you have to pay more. And then on the flip side, the cheaper option is you do more of the manual work, but it costs less. So I did that version because it's really not that hard to input the information, honestly, if you take your time and do it right. But in terms of classifications, what that means is, just giving you guys an example. Let's say that you want to sell merch. Now, apparel is its own classification. So that means t-shirts, sweatpants, hats, different things like that. That is one classification, which is 25, I believe, classification 25. Now, let's say you want to put your logo or your branding or design on a phone case or a laptop or something like that. That is a different classification. So just make sure you're very thorough on that. Like I said before, they have videos on the site for USPTO telling you, explaining the difference. And even when you get to that part of the application, they have little charts and you can look up the difference. And as well as there's plenty of articles. YouTube is free, Google is free. I was looking up the specific terms because they want you to get very specific about what you're going to be selling when it comes to that sort of stuff. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different if you're trademarking for a service, but I haven't filed for that yet, so I can't really tell you much about that. I can just tell you about the product side. So there is a price per classification. It's $225 per classification. You can also do a file for a trademark for multiple classifications at the same time. I haven't done that yet, so I'm not even going to try to explain how to do that because I haven't done it yet. I can imagine it's not that much different. It's just you adding more classifications in. But just know that if you do that, it's going to be $225 per classification. So that is that piece of advice. So the next piece of advice that I want to share is that you can actually fight someone else's trademark application or filing. So let's use my situation as an example. So let's say you fall and you drop the ball like how I did, and you haven't trademarked your business yet. However, let's say you've been out for 6 months. Your brand, it's been 6 months since launching your brand, and you've been consistent. You've been doing a good job of branding. You've been putting yourself out there, and you're establishing your name, your title. Okay. So let's say that someone who launched their brand 3 months after yours files for their trademark. You can fight that by saying, well, I have been putting my brand out there publicly. I've been branding my brand or my business and consistently and doing XYZ. This is what I've done. And let's say, even if it's not just a brand like mine, if it's an actual business, because you guys know I just started as a blog. So let's say I've been selling this for 3 months. This is my product. This is my service that I offer. And I've been doing it under this name for 3 months. And so you can fight it. Now, I can't guarantee that you will actually get they'll give you the trademark and they'll cancel the other person's. I think that's kind of a case-by-case situation, but you can fight it, and that's an example of how you can do that. Now, y'all know I'm not no legal professional. Obviously, if I was, I wouldn't really be making this video because I would have known it. But, so if you want the specifics of that, ask an actual professional or do more research on your own. So that's the next piece of advice that I wish I had. Another piece of advice that I wish I had in terms of legal stuff is that it is actually illegal to use someone else's terms and conditions. I discovered this when watching one of Vanessa Lau's videos where she was talking about how she almost got sued because she used terms and conditions sheet or paper or whatever that she found on the internet for her course. And the person reached out and basically was like, you know, if you don't take this down, we're going to have to take legal action. And she didn't know. And I honestly wouldn't have known either, because I just thought terms and conditions, I think all of us, or most of us, think that those are pretty generic sort of things that no one really thinks twice about, and that anybody can kind of use them for grabs. But terms and conditions are very specific to what you were doing. And so you will actually need to go to a lawyer for something like that and have them set up that for you. So don't go and Google and use someone else's terms and conditions or their privacy laws or whatever. Well, privacy laws those don't change, but their privacy contract or whatever, you would have to go to an actual lawyer to get that drawn up, because it is different for each business. And even if that person's in the same industry as you, they still have a different brand than you. And so you need to go to a professional yourself, and that's just an investment you're going to have to make on your own to get that squared away, because it is actually illegal to use someone else's terms and conditions. So just word of the wise, take heed of that. The next piece of advice that I wish I knew, which also shout out to Vanessa Lau. You guys have heard me reference her before. I really love her channel. She put me on and let me know that it is actually better to meet with an accountant before you meet with a lawyer. Obviously, as your brand grows, you're going to need to have both in your corner. But the reason you should meet with an accountant before meeting with a lawyer is because a lawyer can assess your personal finances and your business finances. And even in the beginning, if you can afford to meet with an accountant before launching, they can advise you on what type of business you need to file as. They can advise you on even a lot of legal stuff, the type of legal stuff that you need and can pay for and all that stuff, because obviously lawyers are not free. And so every lawyer isn't for you, or everything that a lawyer can do for you in terms of your business may not need to be done at that time. And so they kind of help you prioritize your funds. So it's best to go see them before you go see the lawyer, so you have a better foundation in terms of what direction you want to head in, because accountants help you provide what direction you should go in when looking at your finances. So that is why you should meet with an accountant before meeting with a lawyer. The next piece of advice that I wish I knew, which another one, this may be another dumb moment, I don't know, I don't care, I'm just being honest, that there is a difference between an accountant and a bookkeeper. I kind of thought that the two were one and the same. I always knew like they had different titles, but in terms of what they actually do, I didn't think there was really much of a difference. But bookkeepers, they keep up with your expenses, what goes in and what goes out specifically. Obviously, accountants keep up with your expenses too, but bookkeepers, like their sole job is to keep track of what comes in and what goes out. And so I know there's, for a lot of business owners, use stuff like QuickBooks and things like that to keep up with it. But that is what you can use to monitor all your expenses of what's going in and what's coming out. In terms of accountants, they just more so look at the bigger picture. So I guess bookkeeping is kind of day to day, and then accountant is kind of big picture, you know, assisting with taxes and stuff like that. Obviously, they also monitor your expenses, but it's on a bigger scale, and their services exceed just looking at your expenses. They help with taxes and provide financial advice about what you should and shouldn't invest in and blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of the difference between the two. But obviously, an accountant can do bookkeeping, but a bookkeeper can't do everything that an accountant does. So there you go. And the last piece of advice that I wish I knew was that when it comes to opening a business bank account, there is a monthly fee. Now, obviously, for regular bank accounts, there can be a monthly fee, but in the case that business accounts are free, you have to have a minimum balance. Now, obviously, for most personal accounts, I can attest, like, you don't get a fee if you don't really have much in there, or there's not really a minimum balance requirement depending on what you have. There's always that option to go that route and get a free account with no minimum balance or anything. Obviously, there's overdraft fees, but that's a whole nother situation. But the only way that you can really get a free account with business is if you have a minimum amount in there. And obviously, if you're just now starting, you're not really going to have anything in there. Unless it's just, you know, you putting aside money for savings and stuff like that. But for most people, they don't have all that. So expect to pay some sort of fee until you can get a standard minimum balance. Now, obviously, this is different depending on where you go to open your bank account. From what I've heard a lot of people say that credit unions are really, really kind to small business owners. So that's what I would recommend. But honestly, it really kind of depends on where you are located at and the type of business that you have. So that's kind of situational, on a situational basis. You need to do the research yourself to find out what works best for you and your business with where you are located. I also wanted to make note that in terms of the bank account, there is an introductory period depending on where you go. Some banks or credit unions, they offer an introductory period, kind of like a free trial, I guess, where you don't have to pay a fee, and then it'll start kicking in later on. So I also wanted to bring that up. But once again, do your research, figure out what works best for you, ask around. Okay, so I know I said that was the last piece of advice, but I wanted to add this bonus in. I actually kind of just thought of this while filming. I know a lot of people have this question. I knew the difference going into it, but I know a lot of people don't. So I also wanted to make note of this. You know, I've been talking about in terms of the legal stuff, trademarks and licenses or whatever, the difference between the two, because I think a big reason also why I waited so long to file for my trademark and stuff is not just because of people telling me, giving me whiplash about whether I should or shouldn't do it, but also kind of that fear of finalizing it, because, you know, now it's legal, now it's solidified, now I have to be held accountable by law, and that's just very intimidating. So legal stuff and financial things, like, they're really intimidating to people, especially when it comes to their business, because they don't have anyone else to blame but themselves if stuff goes wrong, and so they're solely responsible for it, you know. So what I would say in terms of the difference between trademarks and business licenses, because people use a lot of fancy terminology when really it's just this simple. A business license or a seller's permit, that gives you the legal right to operate your business. A trademark takes away other people's legal right to operate a business or a brand using your name. So that is the difference. Businesses and permits give you the legal right. Trademarks takes away other people's legal rights. So that is kind of just in layman terms the main difference. Now, obviously, you can get more specific than that, and I elaborated on that in the video a little bit more. But at the end of the day, that's the main difference between the two. So, word of the wise, take heed of that. Okay, guys, so this video was very specific. I really got down and dirty, breaking everything down. I wish I knew all this stuff before launching my brand. It would have saved me so much time, so many hours, so much money, honestly. So I wish I knew these things. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Let me know down below your thoughts, how this helped you, what you're going to do with the information I gave today, any tips that you may have for other bougie bosses and even me, because, you know, I'm gonna be lurking and checking out what you guys have to say about it, because I'm still learning too. If any professionals are watching this, I hope I did you guys justice. I want to indicate again that I am not a finance professional. I am not a legal professional, but I have learned a lot and acquired a lot of knowledge over this past 1.5 to 2 years or so. So I just wanted to share the wealth with you guys about what I've learned. And I hope this was helpful. Make sure to comment down below. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe and click that bell next to it to be notified. I love you so much, bougie bosses, and I will see you next time. Bye.